Yeah, it's Brian Newman with the 101 Referral Network lunch meeting, and our guest speaker today is Carey Miller. So, Carey, hi, welcome.
Hi. Thank you. I'm just gonna like briefly go over my childhood, then I'm gonna tell you guys kind of how I got addicted to drugs, a little bit about that, and then I want to tell you kind of how I got off of drugs and how like my life is today and how it is just like being a sober mom, being a new business owner. So growing up, I'm so nervous, so you have to just bear with me here a
Just
little bit, but
relax. Okay.
I had like
And
a
don't
normal
bite.
childhood. Okay, good. I feel like I had a normal childhood growing up, like elementary school, middle school. I was a good kid. I played a lot of sports, soccer, track and field, basketball, cross country, and I had straight A's in school. Like I said, I was like a normal kid with a good family. But when I was in fourth grade, my parents told me that my mom told us that my parents were getting divorced. And I feel like that was like a lot of trauma for me. And I never really dealt with it. And I feel like later in my life, that kind of led to why I started getting into drugs and things. So I continued in sports and continued with school. And I went to private school all the way up until eighth grade. And private school is like very conservative. It was like a Christian school where we went to Bible class, we had chapel, it was like very structured, very disciplined, all about God. Everyone there was like very um no one drank or did drugs or anything like that. And then when I went to public school, like I said, I started going to public school like eighth grade, and everything was different. Everyone was drinking, partying. When I went there, I was like a virgin. I had never drank alcohol, never smoked cigarettes, anything. And then going into public school, I got introduced to all these people that were doing all these things. And I really started to like rebel. And going back to just like more about my childhood, just so you can like fit all the pieces together, I was a really good athlete. I was most valuable player on my track and field team. I was athlete of the week in Lake County. I was in the newspaper several times. So I was really good with sports. I had scholarships going to college just from my grades, not from sports. But then I went to public school, and like my whole life really started to change then. I started drinking, I started dating guys. By the time I was 15, I started doing pills. I got a job when I was 15, and people that I was like 15, 16 years old, and a lot of people I worked with were older than me, like 23 years old, 22, 23, even older than that. But those people in their 20s, some people were selling drugs there, and a lot of people were doing them. And that's how I started doing the drugs from the people I worked with and a boyfriend I was dating at the time. They all did pills, so I started doing them. And even just like I remember being in science class in high school. I don't know if you guys are like familiar with opiate addiction or opiate withdrawal, but like when you take painkillers and you try to come off of them, it's not just like taking a Tylenol. It's like your body's physically addicted and you get flu-like symptoms, your whole body aches. It's like, I don't want to compare it to Corona. I've never had it, but it's very severe. It's like really bad. And I just remember even being in science class in high school, trying to come off these pills, so sick. Just like looking back at that age, like being so young and being addicted to pills already, it's just like, it doesn't even feel like my life. And that was just the beginning of it. I ended up like, I would say like selling my soul for drugs because became so addicted, and I was addicted for like 10 years. I'm not saying I'm not addicted now, but I just don't use drugs now. I still believe like if I picked up a drug today, I would go back into that vicious cycle. But I became like a vicious drug addict. One of the things I would do is like pawn everything I owned. Anything that was valuable in my house, TV, DVD player, my laptop, all my jewelry, that went to the pawn shop so I could get money for drugs. I stole from people in my life. I stole jewelry. I stole money. My dad didn't want me living with him anymore because, I mean, why would you want someone living with you that's on drugs stealing from you? I was homeless. I don't know if you guys have this where you live, but like there's people that stand on the side of the road here with like a cardboard sign and they'll say like homeless or whatever they write on the sign. I was like one of those people standing on the side of the road begging for money. Just like really, I would do anything to get these drugs. Like all day long, all I wanted to do was get high. I went to college, but I dropped out. I dropped out like 4 times. I would sober up for like 30 days, try to get my life together, and then just relapse. So I ended up starting to get arrested when I was 19. I'm pretty sure I've been arrested 10 times. It might be more than that. I literally just lost count. And in and out of jail, in and out of rehab. So many people tried to help me because I was using drugs and living in the town that I grew up in. So a lot of people would like see me, like people that I knew, just like sitting. I used to sit in front of this Dunkin' Donuts in my town, and like I'd sit right in front of the drive-through, so all the people would see me driving through with my little sign that said homeless. And this like family saw me one day and they're like, we want to help you. We'll set you up in an apartment. We have a job that you can go to. They didn't know I was addicted to drugs and like basically choosing to be homeless so I could just get money doing that to continue getting high. And they tell me, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll pick you up at 12 o'clock and we'll take you to this apartment. We'll set you up with a job. We'll give you a bike so you can ride the books. I didn't have a car. I literally only had like the clothes on my back. I probably hadn't showered in weeks. I was like disgusting. They came back the next day and picked me up, and I only made it to the stoplight, and I ended up telling them in the car, like, I just can't do this. And I got out of the car at the stoplight. And I just don't think I wanted help. And I was waiting for my drug dealer that day. I was antsy. I wasn't feeling that good. And it's like so many situations like that where people tried to help me. I went to several halfway houses. Like I said, so many rehabs. My dad sent me to over 10 rehabs. I think the end count was like 14 rehabs. I went to rehab in Illinois all the way to South Florida. I was going to rehabs down there. My dad sent me anywhere, to addiction specialists, therapists, counselors, anything to try to help me, like, just not do this. And the thing was, I just didn't think things through. I would live in the moment and I didn't really have any self-esteem. So getting drugs is like what gave me my self-esteem, I guess. And it was literally during that time in my life, it was the only thing that made me feel good. So I would just keep going back to it and back to it. I just couldn't see my life without it. I would go to these rehabs and I would literally just plan my next relapse at the rehab. My dad would send me money to like be able to, buy stuff at the rehab or go out on little events at the rehabs. And I would just save that money for some big blowout relapse after. It was just like one nightmare after the next. And then I finally ended up in jail again in 2016. And at this time in my life, I was like, I'm just done with this. I just can't keep getting arrested over and over again. My life is like going nowhere, no education, no real job, no career. And what was I going to say? There was a rehab in the jail. And I remember going to that. You have to like sign up and get accepted to the rehab program. And I went to that rehab there, and it was like this larger Black lady that ran the program. Her name was Miss Williams, and she used to tell us every single day, if you don't change the way you think, you're never going to change your life. And just tried to get all of us in that program to start thinking things through. Like, if you don't start thinking about the consequences, like if you get high, if you steal from someone, you're going to get arrested, and this is going to be your life forever if you don't start making better choices. So that rehab really changed my life. I ended up getting out of prison. I ended up going to prison. That judge and that state attorney, I'd been arrested and in and out of that jail so many times. They were so sick of seeing me that they sent me to prison. I only had to go for a few months, but it was just like life-changing going to prison. I went to one in Florida. There was no air conditioning. There was like 70 women all packed into like this 2,500, 3,000 square foot building, bunk beds back to back to back. You're like 6 inches from the next bunk bed next to you. No privacy. It's like, I don't know if this is the right word, but it's like dehumanization, where they try to break you down. And it really did change me. And at one point there was no running water for like 3 or 4 days. So there's no air conditioning, no running water. It was just like a nightmare. There was bugs crawling all over the place. But at the end of the day, I'm not complaining like I didn't deserve to be there. I committed crimes, I did drugs, I did stuff that was illegal. So that's what happens when you do that kind of stuff. So that really changed my life getting out of there. And when I got out, I just wanted to do everything I could to change my life and to like make my life something more than just being a drug addict. So I signed back up for school. And what else did I do? I got a full-time job at a restaurant. It wasn't like necessarily what I wanted to do, but I made good money. It paid the bills. And I got really into running. And running really helped me for a long time. I'd get that runner's high. That helped me stay sober. I got competitive with running. I ended up getting like a first place in some 5K race. And then I was kind of like over running and I wanted something more. And so I started looking at these girls online that would do bodybuilding and I wanted to be just like them. So I Googled for a personal trainer online, hoping someone could help me like prep for a bodybuilding show in 2000. This was 2018 now. And I did the show, but I was so bent on, I was almost 2 years sober now. Life was going so good, money in the bank, doing this bodybuilding show, but I was like so bent out of shape on getting like first place in the show. Like no matter what, I wanted to get first place. And I ended up getting fifth and actually relapsed at that bodybuilding show on alcohol. And that relapse kind of tumbled me into relapsing for like a few more months. And I found out I was pregnant. I didn't know I was pregnant until I was 3 months pregnant. And I had a boyfriend at the time that I'd been with on and off for like 6.5 years. He was sober at the time. And he was really upset. I was pregnant and I was getting high still. Continued getting high for a few more weeks, and he's like, I'm gonna get you into rehab like this. You just can't do this, because it was his child too, it wasn't just me. And at this point it was our baby. So he got me into a rehab 2 years ago. And January 11th I went to rehab in 2018, I'm pretty sure, because this January I'll have 2 years sober again. And I went to rehab. I was so happy to go. I was to the point where I was so over getting high. I'd had sobriety before and I knew how good my life was then. And so I was just ready to get clean again. It was like miserable. I owed my drug dealer a bunch of money. I was in this dump of a town in Florida and I was so happy to get away. My boyfriend put me in a rehab in South Florida. He was living down there at the time. I was pregnant and I completed the rehab program. I was so happy to be pregnant. Life was good. Then when I was 9 months pregnant, me and my boyfriend ended up getting an apartment down there. He was doing very well with his career. I didn't have to work at the time. He paid all the bills in our house. I was just like enjoying being pregnant, being sober, enjoying life. I was 9 months pregnant at this point, and I was 1 week away from giving birth to our child. And my child's father didn't come home that night. And he came home every single night. We spent every night together. I mean, we lived together, about to have a baby. We'd always have dinner together, watch a movie, and go to sleep. And he didn't come home, and I called his phone all night. He didn't answer. So the next morning, his phone ended up getting like shut off. So the next morning I started calling hospitals. I just like Googled on my phone, like all the hospitals in that area. I'm not from South Florida, so I don't know like all the local hospitals. I think the 8th hospital I called told me, oh, this guy, your boyfriend's been discharged. They didn't say boyfriend. They said, Joandre Rivas has been discharged, but we can't give you any information on him. So in my head, I'm thinking he's alive, like he's fine. And just so you know, like a week prior to that, he was like exhibiting some behaviors that made me think maybe he had relapsed, but he seemed fine like the next day. So I really didn't think anything of it. So anyway, come to find out, fast forward like an hour later, I'm driving to the hospital thinking maybe if I drive there, they'll tell me what happened to him. I was kind of just trying to like fit the pieces together at this point of what's going on with my boyfriend. A detective calls me on the way to the hospital and tells me to come back to my apartment. And the first thing I asked him is like, is my boyfriend okay? And he said, yes. And then he started asking me all these questions. The bottom line was he ended up telling me your boyfriend has passed away. So that was just kind of crazy, overwhelming, devastating. And I had my baby a week later. It was just so many emotions, and I was just trying to hold it together so much because I'm a new mom now. I just had a baby. I mean, I didn't want to like mentally break down at that point. I felt like it was just so overwhelming that I didn't like break down then. I just kept trying to like hold it together, like I said. But the first year of being a mom and like I really wouldn't let myself grieve, knowing that my child's father passed away. Me and him been through so much. I loved him so much. Um, I always thought we'd end up together forever. I mean, that was just, we finally had a baby after 7 years together. At that point, we were together 7 years. And anyway, just like the first year of motherhood, I don't know if any of you guys are moms, but it was very difficult for me. And it was just very difficult doing it alone. I mean, the sleepless nights, I was just like stupid going into like being a mom, I guess. I didn't realize it's like, I don't know how many of you have kids, but it was like 24/7. I mean, it's still 24/7. My son's, he's 16 months now, but it was a very challenging first year. So anyway, let me just get to, I finally, in the last 2 years, I finished my AA degree and I had to like decide what I'm going to do with my life. So I decided to get into personal training. I got certified as a personal trainer, CPR certified, AED certified, and then a personal training certification. And I started working at a gym. I just felt like I could make more money doing it on my own. So I ended up putting my 2 weeks notice in there, trying to leave on good terms for once in my life, because being a drug addict for so long, I feel like I never left my jobs on good terms. Anyway, started my own business in March, and here we are, October. The first month was, I only had like one or two clients. The second month, maybe five. The next month after that, every month's gotten better and better. Now I'm at 17 clients. My business is called MM Fitness. MM is for Miller because me and my brother do a lot of the business stuff together. So it's kind of just like our last name, like initials of our last name. I do online training. I do in-person training in Sanford, Florida. It's kind of near Orlando. If you know, like Disney World, Orlando, it's not that far from there. I love working out. Like this is like a dream career for me. Like sometimes I can't even believe this is my life today. Just from being like homeless, having nothing, living on the streets, and like I live in like a luxury apartment now. We have like a beautiful gym here. That's where I train my clients at. The apartment complex I live at, they've been very nice and let me train people here, but eventually I do want to have my own gym. Either in 2021 or 2022, I want to have my own gym. But we have a website. I've really done it all by myself, just putting the website together, doing the advertising, training the clients. I just want to have the best life I can now for me and my son. And like, no matter what I've been through with my child's father dying, with being an addict, I always just want to push myself more, like have that motivation to just push and push and push I want to live like a life where I can take my son on vacation and where I can buy him a car when he turns 16. So that's what really motivates me, my son. And then today I just like think things through. I don't, before, like I said, I lived in the moment. I wanted to get high. And now I just think if I get high, I'll get arrested. If I get high, I'll lose my son. I just try to like think everything through. So, and I'll just say a few tips with working out, eating healthy. Um, One thing I always do is read the ingredient label on food. And I try not to buy processed foods. If you buy processed foods and you read the ingredient label, there's like so many preservatives in it. If I can't understand the ingredient, if I can't like read what's in the ingredients on the label, I feel like it's not a good food to eat. I try to stick with like whole food items like chicken, broccoli, rice, and put all the items together myself. And just sticking along like the perimeter of the grocery store, that's where like all the fresh foods are. Everything in the middle, I feel like is not as, it's like processed foods. But my website is mmfitnesstrainer.com. I don't know if you guys get on Instagram, but my Instagram is Miller_Miller Fitness. And like I said, I do online, I do Zoom. With online, I make my clients take videos of their work, all assign like a workout program and a meal plan. They do weekly check-ins. first they have to fill out a questionnaire, like if they have prior injuries, do they have any food allergies? It's like a whole questionnaire just to get to know them. And then I design that program for them. They video their workouts so I can correct their form. Um, and they do the weekly check-ins with pictures with their weight. My clients are doing so good. I have so many clients that have lost so much weight and things are so good today. So that's basically my whole story. That's it.
Oh, okay.